Welcome back, everyone, to the Black Book today. Sam McKee, Bob Hollywood Hayden. We're heading into day 4 here at Harrisburg, and the positive trends here at the sale continue.
That's right, Sam. 21% up on Monday, 7% on Tuesday. Steve Stewart probably simplified it best when he said, good horses always sell, and there were an abundance of those on display here at Harrisburg. The star of the show, Some Beat Somewhere, credit winner, extremely strong, and an international presence in the room.
And here's a bit of history. 50 years ago today, we sold a champion here at Harrisburg, a horse that almost transcended the sport at that time, the great Bret Hanover.
How many horses, Sam, stand the test of time 50 years later? This is almost unheard of a half a century later. Two things stand out immediately. No horse has touched his 35 straight wins, and he did it to start his career, and no pacer since has won 3 straight Horse of the Year titles.
And we caught up with some people that not only saw him race, but knew the horse well for their thoughts.
What's your first recollection when you hear the name Bret Hanover?
Well, Frank Irvin did a masterful job of managing the horse, and I associate Mr. Irvin with Bret Hanover. Anybody that knew Mr. Irvin, he was quite gruff, and he was a tough guy. And he was older when he trained and drove Bret Hanover. Yeah. But I asked him one day. I worked for him the year Bret Hanover was 4 years old, and I asked Mr. Irvin, "How long are Bret Hanover's hobbles?" He says, "I don't know, but they fit him." And that was kind of a shocking answer, but that's the way he was. A story that's interesting, one time when people were looking at basically all the yearlings for public auction, many trainers would do that because after Lexington, racing was over with. And George Schulte was in the #1 barn at the Hanover Shoe Farms Fairgrounds and looked at all the pacing colts and stood in front of backed up to a stall and threw his catalog rather dramatically up in the air. He said, "I wish I could find out the best pacing colt in this barn." And he was standing in front of Bret Hanover's stall.
Really?
Yeah.
Where the video cameras when you need it. That was good. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a true story. It's in the Hanover book. There seems to be a bias against older mares and older stallions. Bret Hanover was in Adios's last crop, which kind of defies that bias.
Yes, especially when you look at some of the mares through the years. I mean, the catalog today, it's 50 years since he sold, but Bret Hanover's name doesn't appear a lot, but his influence is everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
He sold for $50,000 as a sales topper. He goes on as a 2-, 3-, and 4-year-old to be Horse of the Year. Give us some idea what kind of racehorse he was. We know he was great. The numbers say great, but what did you think?
Oh, Bret Hanover, I would say, was the greatest 2-year-old I had ever seen at that point. He was a great 3-year-old, and he was a great 4-year-old. He was a great horse. I think he was somewhat like a Secretariat genetically, in that he was the epitome of the best of where the breed could possibly be at that time. He was by the preeminent sire Adios, and we got his size from Brenna Hanover. She was a tar heel from Beryl Hanover, and that was a very big Hanover family at that time. But Adios on a tar heel mare, Tar Heel was probably the best broodmare sire of all time. So therefore, what you had was, you had a colt by the preeminent sire out of the best, beautifully bred daughter of the best broodmare sire, and perfection, it happened.
Do you have an anecdote or two for us concerning Mr. Bret Hanover?
Well, put it this way, my favorite recollection of his was, I forget what they called it. It was the race at Yonkers. He was 1-9 on the board. And
as a 4-year-old this was?
2-year-old.
2-year-old, okay.
He's 1-9 on the board. And the guy behind me says, he ain't gonna win. So I turned around and I looked to him and I said, no, he is gonna win. So the guy said, well, I'll bet you he's, all right. So he said, well, I can have every other horse in the field. I said, yeah. Well, the horse was 1-9 on the board, and Bret Hanover won easily, and I got even money. That's one of my favorite recollections of him.
And in those days, we had a lot of coverage, too. 15, 20 newspapers wouldn't have been outrageous, right, to cover that kind of race?
Put it this way. At the Yonkers, when they raced at Yonkers, if you were standing anywhere in the grandstand, you had to actually make your bet 10 minutes before post time in order to get back, to be assured you would get back to your spot where you actually could watch that race. There must have been 35,000 people at Yonkers. There was certainly 30 to 40,000 people at Roosevelt when they met again. There was a lot of talk back then, as you're hearing talk now, whereas Mr. Young seems to want to have a match race with I Love Nightlife.
Yeah, Richard Young, the owner,
and the captain, yeah. Well, at that time, the best 3-year-old was Romeo Hanover, and of course Brett Hanover was the best 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Well, the owners of Romeo Hanover were clamoring for a match race. From what I've read, Frank Irvin, who was driving and training Brett Hanover, he wanted to do it, but I don't think the Castleton people did, or it just never came off.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how that was the flavor of the conversation back then.
Yeah. Yeah, great racing, great horses, and a lot of good memories from Brett Hanover.
Oh, he won 35 straight races. I mean, and he won 24 races as a 2-year-old. Not like today's where maybe they'll race 10 or 12 times.
Yeah.
No, Brett Hanover was a super horse, a wonderful horse, one of the all-time greats.
The Bow River 14-karat gold fine jewelry collection has some of the most unique custom equine jewelry designs. With the master craftsmanship of our designers, we provide a piece of jewelry you'll treasure for years to come. We use state-of-the-art equipment, hand finishing, and quality stones to give you the craftsmanship in a piece of jewelry that you will enjoy. Our designs seek to capture the world of horses and the relationship they have with their owners. Wearing one of these unique designs will reflect this.
Bruce Saunders is joining me here, and Bruce, this year, First Crop Rock and Roll Heaven will debut as yearlings. You trained him, 2010 Horse of the Year. First things first, he wasn't a big horse. What do his yearlings look like?
They come in all sizes and shapes, Bob. They all have great heads and very kind eyes, which is something that he had. Not a lot of horses have. They have nice bodies. They've got plenty of legs. Most of the consigners are very happy with the size. I think anybody that has an affinity for a racehorse can find one here that meets their criteria.
What was the best quality Rock and Roll Heaven had as a racehorse?
I think his high speed, his ability to use high speed anytime during the mile. He could pace away from a field of horses in the middle of a mile like he did that night at the Breeders' Crown, the split from the quarter to the 3/4 when he went 19 in the piece. I don't know how fast he went, but many a horse made a break trying to keep up with him.
Any substitute for actually seeing the horse itself and watching him and in the stall and taking out?
I'm a big believer in seeing him in his natural habitat. You know, the videos are great. Gives you some idea of the athletic nature of the horse. You can look at the page. I'm convinced at this point in time, you know, a great horse can come from almost anywhere. You know, some of these horses, you look at the page and say, wow, where'd this great horse come from? It just popped up out of nowhere. A Rocket Dance was an example. There's some other examples that jump out at you. And then there's, you know, the classic Wish type mares that have great horses continuously, and Panned Out always puts out great horses. So, you know, they can come from anywhere, but I think if you can get an opportunity to visually look at, watch these horses move in the field, I think there's some advantage to that.
Bruce Saunders, Horse of the Year trainer, Rock and Roll Heaven, his first crop sells this week at Harrisburg. I'm joined by Mr. Jonas Zernsten, and you know, there's only one horse, Jonas, that repeated in the Breeders' Crown from last year to this year. That was you, Maven, back to back.
That was very nice.
How's she doing?
Very good.
Was any surprise to you? I mean, she's been in great form.
She's been really good here at the end, so I mean, she raced very good in elimination, and Johnny put her in the right spot for the final, so she got it done.
What's a little bit unusual here is that you don't train a lot of older trotters, you know, like, yeah, few, but that's not your game really, so you couldn't really let her go, right? You had to keep her.
No, we wanted to hang on to her, so we're trying to get a few more to stick around, so I think hopefully by the years goes on, we're going to get more and more of them.
Okay, Harrisburg week coming up here. What are you looking at? We're looking for?
A little bit of everything. All trotters though, but a little bit of everything.
No pacers at all?
No.
No? Jimmy Takter does both.
Yeah, he's a lot better than I am too.
Well,
so.
he's a lot better than all of us, but that's
Yeah.
beside the point. Now, what were you looking young? You looking at any first crop sires, Muscle Massive, Lucky Chucky? Any word on them?
I got a couple of Lucky Chuckies so far. We got them broke before I got here, and I like them a lot. So I mean, I'm probably going to look at a few more of those. And
Can we expect to see you back in the Hamiltonian Oaks Winners Circle anytime soon?
I hope so.
Is that the goal, or is it people just say that because it sounds like you're supposed to say that? Is that really the goal?
That is the goal.
That is the goal.
I mean, I got the Oaks once. I want to try to get the Hambo now.
Okay. And Trotting Colts are your second favorite thing behind Trotting Phillies.
Exactly.
All right, Jonas Ernsten, thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it.
Thank
and good
you.
luck this week.
Thank you.
Happy to be joined by Tron Schmetzhammer and the Harrisburg sales underway. Tron, what did you think of the early overseas interest in the horses, especially the trotters?
Well, same as in Kentucky, there was a lot of European money, especially Swedish buyers, and they showed up again here too in Harrisburg. Plus, I see some Russian buyers.
And we have some first crop stallions that were featured the first day. I know Muscle Master was one, Lucky Chucky. What do you think of those two guys?
Yeah, Lucky Chucky, I have a couple already I picked up in Lexington, and he was a good horse, and obviously by my old horse, Winsong Legacy, I want to try some of them, yeah.
You know, a lot of the trotters overseas race till an older age. We don't do as much of that here. But Arch Madness, 9 years old, third in the Breeders' Crown, had a revived second half of the season, went past $4 million. What's the status on him? How's he doing?
He's doing fine. He's going to qualify next week, try to get ready for the TVG series at the Meadowlands there, and that'll be the end of the season for him. And you know, next year is just another year. He's going to be 10, but it's when those balance images reach their peak.
Yeah, and a lot of the good overseas horses have raced, Victory Tilly, a lot of those horses on in years. What's the reason for that? Is that because they don't race as hard early?
Probably, yeah. They don't race 2-year-olds like we do here, and Arch Madness didn't didn't do much as a 2-year-old either. But he was a good 3-year-old, and it is rare to see them hang on that late. It's the bloodlines a little bit. Most of the American bloodlines aren't really those horses. The Valley Victory lines. They don't seem to do that well later on. They don't develop. They find their speed very quick, and that's it. You know, they don't sustain their form many years. That's for sure.
All right, Tron Schmetzhammer, thanks so much for stopping by. Good luck, and we're looking forward to Arch Madness next month, and definitely for 10-year-old season as he heads towards $5 million.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Bill Popfinger has joined the proceedings, and Bill, you take us back, if you don't mind, to your first sale or two at Harrisburg here. Remember when that might have been?
I've been about last 50 years. How long has this sale been going on?
But since 1939, this is 75th anniversary.
Okay, I would go back to 1950 probably, maybe 49. My father used to buy one or two every year, and that's how I got in the horse business. He was in the meat business, and I used to go in the summertime as a groom taking care of the horses. That's how I got with the horses.
So as a kid, did you have a suit and tie on like everybody else too, or?
No.
This is Lawrence Shepard, Bowman Brown, all kinds of big names back then. John Simpson, right?
They used to train horses with a sport coat and a suit and
Really?
a tie. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
The times have changed there, huh?
Right.
What about the sales through the years? I mean, what's the best moment you had here at Harrisburg? Well, at least as it turned out.
I remember a horse at Hanover sold for $72,000, and I can't remember what year it was. I think the horse's name was Whitey Hanover, and that was like outrageous. They couldn't believe a horse would bring that much money, and now they're bringing $400,000 or $500,000. So there's a big change here.
Yeah, there was a time when there was a lot, and especially in the 80s, a lot of big price stallions with $1 million, buys. The big purses and stuff. You were second in the richest race ever run with Praise Dignity, so you know all about it. Were those $1 million purses what fueled the yearlings selling through the roof?
Oh, definitely. It helped, you know what I mean? I think where the Woodrow Wilson lost its strength is where they used to have three bottom consolation divisions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now they only have one for the gold. You know what I mean? Where 3 or 4, you could always get your money back.
Sure.
And now it's either you make it or you don't. You know what I mean? There's no consolation.
Yeah, and you had to come. Most guys, I would think, those days were coming, looking to hit the home run at the sale, right?
Well, you know, it was easier to pick out a horse. There was like you could really narrow it down, maybe half of them. You know what I mean? They come in there. They all were you know, they weren't as bred. You know, there were certain studs were hitting good, and then and there were certain studs were just zero. And I mean, you could really narrow it a lot easier those days than you can now.
And what's Bill Popfringer? What are you looking for this week at the sale?
Well, I'm just buying something a little inexpensive for myself or something, and I got one owner wants to buy something. But
You're not saying you're semi-retired, are you?
I'm semi. I'm just semi.
Semi-retired. That means that if the right horse comes along, you'll do what Chuck Sylvester does. You'll get right back in it.
Well, that's let me tell you something about training horses. The better the horse is, the dumber you can be. Good horses make good trainers. Don't let nobody kid you.
All right.
Listen, that's
Well, I want Bill Popfinger's catalog, and when he's not looking, I'm going to take a peek in and see what he's got circled. Bill, good luck this week at the sale, and tell Frank we said hello, and hopefully you'll come up with a good one.
all right. Good seeing you again.
Thanks a lot,
Take
Bill.
care.
It's his Hall of Fame season, and he's here. Richard Stillings has joined us here at Harrisburg. And before we ask you about the sale, Richard, what was the moment like when you first found out that the Hall of Fame came calling for you?
Believe it or not, I got tears in my eyes. I had a hard time talking. There was Roger Houston and Dave Pallone come up and told me, and the next couple of minutes, it was really, I had a hard time talking.
Great stuff, isn't it? I want to ask you about some of the great horses, like a Barbary Spur, Gunslinger Spur, Esquire Spur. A lot of those horses, we know the Spur part, but does that mean they're homebreds? You can buy them at the sale? You bought them here? What happened? How do you get those?
Barbary, Jaguar, we bought here. Kentucky, we bought in Kentucky. And at just different sales we bought them at. We had a couple homebreds, but there's never the caliber of horses that those horses turned out to be.
Is the trainer, driver a thing of the past in racing nowadays?
I think it is. I think the owners and some of the trainers, they really they want to get somebody that gets around the racetrack good and drive 8 or 9 horses every night, and they're always on top of their game. And if they do make a mistake, they don't let it bite at you like it would me. If I made a mistake on a racetrack, then I have to live with that for a couple, 3 weeks.
What was it like winning back-to-back Little Brown Jugs?
That was being from Mount Vernon, which is only 25 miles away. That would probably be your highlight of your career. So after that,